This is the famed Throckmorton Theatre in Mill Valley, California. And in just about 30 minutes from now, I'm going to be able to say hi to an old friend. I saw Mort Sahl about 6 or 7 years ago, but I did my first interview with him 50 years ago. Imagine that. 50 years ago, he joined me at a radio station I worked at, my first station, called KPFK, and we became friends. In all these years, he has never forgotten to wish me a happy birthday. And tonight, we're going to sit down and talk about Mort's life and times. I think that this one is going to be an exceptional journey for you, and I invite you to be part of it. This theater, by the way, is incredible. If you ever get to Mill Valley, California, you owe it to yourself to experience the magic of the Throckmorton Theatre. Which one is mine? Which one's the cannon?
The cannon is, let's see. I just have the hand towels. How you doing there, Mort? Where do you want to go?
Oh, just out of this light.
Yeah, okay. The cannon, I just had it a second ago. Here it is.
In the fall of 2015, I traveled to Mill Valley, California, for a reunion with one of my mentors and true friends. I first met Mort Sahl in the mid-60s. I don't think he has ever forgotten to call me on my birthday to wish me well. Mort is generally acknowledged as the man who established stand-up comedy. He is one of America's great satirists. He recorded the first comedy album, appeared as the first comedian on the cover of Time magazine, wrote screenplays, appeared in movies, had his own television show, wrote an autobiography, sold out nightclubs across the land, appeared on hundreds of talk shows, raced cars, wrote jokes for President Kennedy, and was free to walk in and out of the White House at will. He was married twice and endured the unspeakable loss of his son to the abuse of drugs. At the height of his fame, he met Jim Garrison, the district attorney of New Orleans, who claimed that he had solved the conspiracy to murder JFK. Mort moved to New Orleans, put his career on hold, and went to work assisting Garrison and his small staff as they prepared their case against a prominent New Orleans businessman who would stand trial for the assassination. He was the only person to ever stand trial for the assassination of President Kennedy. The accused was acquitted, and when Mort returned to Hollywood, he was no longer welcome. His career collapsed along with his marriages. He began a long, painful downward spiral that left him without money, a home, family, or a way to earn a livelihood. He also suffered a stroke. We always remained friends. It was heartbreaking to observe the fall. But there came a time when he could no longer endure the hostility, rage, indifference, and abandonment that haunted him. He left Los Angeles and returned to the place where his career first blossomed so many decades before, San Francisco. But the San Francisco he revisited no longer resembled the quaint artistic environment of decades past. However, just across the Golden Gate Bridge, in the quiet environment of Mill Valley, Mort found comfort in a new friend who ran a beautiful little not-for-profit theater called the Throckmorton. Her name is Lucy Mercer, and she booked Mort to perform one night a week at the theater and arranged for him to find a comfortable place to live. A small but loyal following attends his weekly shows, where Mort exhibits the same acerbic wit and perceptions that have been the staples of his life. He might not move as easily, and his speaking skills may have slowed. His hearing may have diminished, but the song remains the same. His appearances are carried live on Periscope every Thursday. We had not seen each other since he left Los Angeles, and the ravages of his journey had clearly taken its toll. But those first moments of surprise quickly gave way to the wisdom and irony of the things we always spoke about. His favorite subjects, the movies, women, and America. We taped a 3-hour video interview, which I have edited and are presenting in May of 2017 to commemorate Mort Sahl's 90th birthday. Also, on this occasion will be the publication of a new and comprehensive biography of Mort titled Last Man Standing by James Curtis. Before we begin this extraordinary interview with this remarkable man, let's take a moment to look back at a clip that illustrates the genius of Mort Sahl.
I think women are the crucial issue. That's really the thing. It's really not politics. I mean, everybody pretends to be oriented to the community, but men are oriented in America to run the race to win the prize. The brave win the fair. We really believe that. We don't embrace the principle too closely because it's a struggle sometimes. But the best in guys believes that, the best part of people. A few quotes about women that I recall. It was Freud said after 50 years of analysis, he said, I can't determine what it is that women want. At 50 years. And then Oscar Wilde said, a woman will do anything for a man she once loved except love him again. Right? Great insight. And then George Bernard Shaw said, a woman who demands equality renounces her superiority. He said that in 1903. And Nietzsche, of course, said, if women didn't have a unique anatomy which is tantalizing to men, there would be a bounty on them. A lot of you resent that, but they got even with Nietzsche. Nobody married him. At any rate, I want to give you a couple of examples tonight of where we started and where we went. You know, the political examples are easy. I mean, it's easy to say we started with Thomas Jefferson and now we got Dan Quayle. That's what a thoughtless performer would say. Those are, yeah. Fortunately, we don't do that kind of thing. But what about the other examples in society? How did we go from John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara? Remember that? In about 20 movies? How do we go from that to Woody Allen and Mia Farrow? Look at the difference here. Here's a guy who's saying, please don't hit me. And how unaffected we go from Tracy and Hepburn, 7 movies together, Tracy and Hepburn, to Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. These are all 20th century heroes. I mean, have become guys that are involved with themselves. They're in the corner. The woman chooses them, and if she's forceful enough, she goes over and tries to hug them. Did you get your hug for today? It's that kind of, pop psychology, psychobabble. And the guy says, don't hug me too tight. The scars are still there from my last relationship. They're very self-involved. It's what we used to charge women with when I was in high school. I remember that. I remember when I was going to college, and the astronauts are going up, and I said to the girl I was having dinner with, I said, gee, these guys are going, going into outer space. And she said, yes, I dated a pilot once myself. So it's that kind of well, the era may be remembered not for spacewalking as much as men being feminized and women being forced to get a battlefield commission and take over running the boat. Women are great survivors. Some of them occasionally are social democrats. My chart is gone, but if you recall, women are occasionally social democrats. I've known women, not all, but I've known women who could be married to Che Guevara, and once they killed him, they could go back home and marry a used car dealer without skipping a beat. Yeah, you go, sure. But women didn't invent the Geneva Convention. Guys did. Women don't take any prisoners. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, where do you get these ideas? Well, I got them at the movies. I think the movies are the last literature in America Thank goodness that television keeps them, because there's a lot of cynics out there that are saying, well, it was never any good. It's not only Nixon was crooked, they were all crooked. Jefferson had slaves, these guys, they go all the way back. Moses was only in it for himself. There's always those people. But it's not true. And the movies are the only documentation you have now that we've burned our books. So, well, of course we didn't, but nobody reads, so it's almost the same thing. So, wait till they stop reading TV Guide, we'll be in a lot of trouble. They were really worried when Murdoch bought TV Guide from Walter Annenberg. I know a lot of the independent cable operators I know were very worried that TV Guide would lose its literary tone. Because, Murdoch had the racing form and the Star, they're afraid, okay. Why belabor that point? Let's go to a couple of movies. We were talking about Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne. I don't know, a better way to start. Here's The Quiet Man. Now today people tell you they don't want to see that. That was a movie, if you recall it. I haven't seen it in some time. It's a movie about a woman pushing a guy to a point where she brutalizes him so that he'll express himself toward her. But you notice that the girl is worth winning. The girl is what's at stake. And there's never been a movie you've ever enjoyed, go back through your mental card file, in which something wasn't at stake. And on my more morose nights, I think that that's the story of America. It's like the movies. Who's going to get the girl was crucial in the movies in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So America's the girl. Who's going to get her? Guy that's capable of loving her, or any number of exploiters she meets along the way who look good and don't turn out to be too good for her. Anyway, let's proceed. 12 o'clock high. Gregory Peck is 32 here. Jay Leno is 43. Look at this.
Rest. Now, I don't have a lot of patience with this what are we fighting for stuff. We're in a war, a shooting war. We've got to fight. And some of us have got to die. I'm not trying to tell you not to be afraid. Fear is normal. But stop worrying about it and about yourselves. Stop making plans. Forget about going home. Consider yourselves already dead.
Now, you notice, those are the guys that made it possible for us to be here now. This is a man that doesn't know anything about self-pity. If he makes you sorry for his dilemma, but he's too busy doing the job. If they made that movie today, Oliver Stone would make the colonel a guy who smokes marijuana when the troops aren't looking. So they're trying very seriously to tell you that nobody's any better than the worst parts of you, so that you won't aspire to anything. Jimmy Carter himself once told me that the reason he decided to run for president, he said he always respected presidents. He loved Roosevelt and he loved Kennedy, but then he said he met George McGovern when he was running. And he said, I realized a guy like me could run. Boy, I don't know, you gotta watch that democracy. It gets out of hand sometimes. Actually, it isn't democracy, it's egalitarianism. The egalitarian has landed. Anyway, let's proceed. Now, here's a movie from 1939, and these are the movies we believe in. This is really my Bible. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Hello, nosy. Who let you in here?
Why aren't you out chasing ambulance?
That guy Smith's punching everybody he meets. I just got away from him. Oh, Tarzan! Meet Senator Smith.
You act like a man with something on your mind.
Why don't you tell the people the truth for a change?
Oh, the truth. The man wants the truth.
The man wants the truth.
What is the truth, said jesting pilot, and would not stay for an answer.
How do you want it, Senator? Dished out or in a bottle?
The people of this country pick up their papers and what do they read?
Well, this morning they read that an incompetent clown had arrived in Washington, parading like a member of the Senate.
No.
You thought as much about being honest as you do about being smart.
Honest? Why, we're the only ones who can afford to be honest in what we tell the voters. We don't have to be reelected like politicians.
See, everybody's got a reason for their cynicism. He doesn't want to be thought of as a cynic, so what he says is, I'm shrewder than Senator Smith, who's only an idealist, is ready to go down with the ship. Jimmy Stewart is attacking the press in 1939. Outside of Jack Parr, I never knew anyone who had the courage to take them on. Eugene McCarthy once said that the press in Washington should be limited to a 4-year term. And yeah, he might have been onto something there. And this movie, it's interesting. This is, of course, Frank Capra, who left us just a couple of weeks ago. Capra is interesting. Capra was a social democrat. The guys that wrote the movies were all communists, and the actors like Thomas Mitchell and Jack Carson and Walter Brennan, the whole team he had, Edward Arnold and Jimmy Stewart, were all on the right. And yet they all got together because they all believed that America was a place that had been created by the Founding Fathers, so you'd have a place to be free. It was more than an abstract idea. You could practice freedom, and who knows what you could come up with. Anyway, let's proceed.
Got a minute?
This is the only picture Marlon Brando ever directed.
Sure, kid. You dying to get me hung, ain't you?
No, kid. You've been trying to get yourself hung for the past 10 years, and this time I think you're going to make it. You should have quit when you were ahead.
Like you, huh?
Like me.
You're a one-eyed jack around here, Dad. I've seen the other side of your face.
It's a movie basically about social hypocrisy. Both these men started as bank robbers, but one decided, Malden, to get a white collar, put a Bible under his arm, and run for public office. He didn't find that too much of a stretch, by the way. And Brando knows who he is, and he has to go out of his way to kill the one person who can look at him and see the emperor with no clothes, knows who he is. In other words, he represents his conscience. And he doesn't particularly want to have a conscience. The problem, of course, the picture stresses, is that when you try to get the fortunes of the moon, and you only have to sacrifice your conscience, sometimes it's lethal. You don't survive that sacrifice. And finally, let's look again at Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
He frightened me.
I can imagine.
Why, I called you.
Well, you done the right thing, kid.
I mean, what would I have did if you hadn't been around, done?
I figure you can take care of yourself.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I bet you could even lick me.
No, I couldn't.
Oh, sure, I think so.
No, I couldn't. I need someone to look after me.
What about me?
Why not?
Well, I don't know if I can lick you or you can lick me, but I'll tell you one thing I do know.
What?
Together, we can lick them all.
You bet.
It's, somehow you don't seem to... An upper cruster like you and my kind of type that can't even speak left-handed English yet. The whole gizmo, it's hard to believe.
Not hard for me to believe.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay, kid. You got yourself a deal.
The network doesn't run pictures like that anymore. They're too busy doing talk shows or reality shows. America's Least Wanted. You see what happened here? You see the woman taking a hand and saying that life is extended. You know, they talk about empowering women. You hear all these stereotypes in society. You see these endless talk shows with Ronald Reagan's son, Oprah Winfrey, and Phil Donahue, and they're talking about empowering women. Do you know any women more powerful than them? Do you know anybody more worthwhile falling in love with? And you know, I want to leave you with one quote tonight from one of our many writers on the show, Sigmund Freud. He had not a bad guy, he only charged $20 an hour. And he threw you out after a while. He didn't keep you there for the endless therapy. Freud said he had a patient who came to see him, and the guy said, I've been a bachelor all my life, but I can see a marriage. I can see Christmas. I can see my kids and my wife around the tree. I can see it in detail. So Freud said, well, great. And the guy said, well, how? I must be going mad because how can I be nostalgic for something I've never experienced? And Freud said, because that's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Don't get shot. Don't get shot. I got a lazy leg and a lazy eye.
Let me come to see you.
Hagar's retiring after you went to dinner. Hi, pal. Good to see you. Hi. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, just a little lazy.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah. Kind of hungry, huh?
You know this place.
You all sit there, kid? It's well,
I knew when I did that, which was a year ago this week.
I remember. Because
knew.
I've got them on my phone. KPFK.
Oh, you
And
can.
they're all righteous, you know. Well, you remember.
Do I remember?
Are they still paying him $60 a week? On the weeks he can get it.
He lives in an apartment down 1 block from the theater. He walks back home at 5 o'clock in the morning. And,
Really?
and he goes on the computer to listen to his show.
What, has he got an apartment there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Lives with his girlfriend of all these years.
oh well, that's a step ahead of the rest of us. I wasn't able to bring that on.
No. Did you have a good day today?
Well, quiet. You know, I went over to Balboa and had lunch and started texting you to feel you up, see how you did last night.
Oh, that place, El Paseo?
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be paying dinner.
Uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Pretentious.
And they'll be paying dinner off in time payments.
But it's interesting. See, that was starting with your generation where the people made them famous, but they were allergic to people. He's very grand, right? With the tequila.
That's exactly correct.
Anywhere you want.
A couple of nights ago, I went on YouTube, and I watched a concert that you did on the old Monitor show. It was taped in Atlantic City, and it was on the occasion of a gathering of media people, and it was a very beautifully produced broadcast. And at the end, you came back on stage after the applause, and you told the following story. I'm gonna tell you the story that you told.
Oh, was the concert I did?
Yes. Tell me if you remember saying this. You said, a man was getting psychoanalyzed by Sigmund Freud. He said it was a good deal. Those days, Freud only charged $20 an hour. And the man said, I still keep thinking about a dream I had. It was Christmas. It was a family sitting around a tree. There was love and there was optimism in our hearts. How can you become nostalgic for something you never had?
Yeah.
And Freud said, you can dream.
It's the stuff that dreams are made of. I told you that story. I'll be damned. Yeah, I think I actually know the analyst I heard from in Beverly Hills.
You're kidding.
Yeah, his name was Alexander S. Rogowski from Vienna. And that was the old crowd. That was the old crowd, you know, the Orson Welles crowd, not the new crowd. The new crowd wouldn't encourage you to drink. Yeah, well, you better straighten out and face reality.
I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about the nostalgia, the things we never had. When I think of so much that I've learned from you over the years about America, romance, and the movies, I think to myself that Mort shares with me a certain kind of nostalgia. And my first question to you is, with Frank Capra, with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, with the America that you have envisioned and spoken about,
Yeah.
Is it nostalgia for something that ever truly existed? Or is that part of the mythology of our culture, that it was ever different than it was today?
Well, the reason they sold those movies, which I was grounded in, and you were grounded in, and today when I read, a maniac pulled a gun in a crowded theater. What crowded theater? Where? No, nobody's going. And those Jewish guys that they blacklisted had it down. Billy Wilder said to me, when I started the writing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to make a living so my wife wouldn't leave. And he said to me, they're all love stories. I said, but what about a Western? He said, he loves his horse. But it's true, they all are. They all are love stories. And now with the digitizing and everything, nobody's attached to anything. They're just free-floating phrases off the internet. I mean, the tweeting is juvenile. Judd Apatow, of all people, tweeted me, "You're the great authority. What should a movie be?" I said, "Frank Capra." And he tweeted back, "It didn't work then, and it doesn't work now." Well, first of all, he couldn't summon it to try to find out now. And it worked pretty good then.
Yeah, it worked pretty good.
It kept us all, fighting the blades of the fan. Jimmy Stewart and Capra and all those movies. The writers are all communists. The director was a social democrat, neutral, and the villains, Walter Brennan and Arnold, the villain is a fascist who's trying to stop the normal pulse that we have, hopefully. And the reward is supposed to be the girl. But we've had a lot of trouble producing that. And you knew two of them pretty well. I remember China used to say to me, "Ask Elliot, he has exquisite taste." That's what you'd always say, And to convince her, she was a tough customer. And tougher now. I haven't seen her in 20 years.
I'm going to get to China a bit later.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the nostalgia. The America that you remember pre-1945, which you have affixed as the time of the beginning of the decline. You told me that. You said that this long, dark nightmare began in 1945.
Yeah, but Roosevelt was there to get us out of it, not Trump. Roosevelt was going to take us out of it. And Eleanor Roosevelt, whom I finally met, and sometimes during the show here, I've said to the audience that Lucy is the Eleanor Roosevelt of Mill Valley. It takes a lot, because the people don't want to achieve anything noble. They want to know how much money they got on the table, and not much, it turns out.
Why don't people want to achieve something that's noble?
Because everybody, first of all, the movie business was taken over by television people, like Michael Eisner and Barry Diller. Those guys took it over and started to work on numbers. Now, the head of Wells Fargo here, whom I met through Lucy, it was Warren Hellman, who was on the board of Fox. He said when Lucas came in there, they thought he was a hick, and they thought they'd offer him $15,000 for the script and the merchandising. And he said his conscience kept him from doing that to this guy, a successful banker in America. No such conscience at Goldman Sachs or, speaking of that, among the candidates, there's Kasich, from Ohio, who you notice takes a 9-year vacation from being the governor to work at Lehman Brothers. And I say to the audience the other night, he was the Shabbos goy at Lehman Brothers, and they pretend they don't understand it, hoping to shift the focus. I know they understand it. You know, when they Lucy does a children's theater here, and they did a Fiddler, and I said that the shtetl was convincing because their parents were Jewish before they moved to Mill Valley. Well, it's an easy joke, but they've left that, but they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't gone on to anything better.
When you were growing up,
yeah,
was it a Frank Capra America?
Well, if there wasn't, it certainly appealed to me. The guys that taught me to write all knew how to put it in 3 acts. All the guys that helped me make a living. And those guys that worked for Capra, like Robert Riskin and Ring Lardner, those guys, they knew how to take a guy and turn him around. Either a girl turned him around or an ideal. They knew how to do that. But I think after Steve McQueen, we don't see any people like that. We had a movie series here at the theater, and I would explain the movies, mostly to show them why they were effective. But that kind of writer, maybe Al Sargent now, that kind of writer, you know? When I'd be up at Hefner's house, he had a Casablanca night, you know, where he wore a white tuxedo, and he had a Citizen Kane night. They had no idea what Wells was doing. Wells and John Houseman were in the Communist Party. They were really, you know, brandishing the pitchforks. Nobody wants to be caught with it now. They believe in somebody until they start sliding. And of course, we know that firsthand. I mean, not that you slid. They ordained me as crazy and without ability. And it was a lie. And I guess I'm here to prove it with some scars, some visible scars. I'm disappointed a little bit, I'll admit that.
Disappointed in whom?
I'm disappointed in the women. In other words,
elaborate.
In my script, they come and say to you, hang on, I'll be there soon, you know? They let themselves down. Just before I came to meet you, I was watching A Quiet Man. And look at that, by the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, by the numbers. The woman doesn't really respect the guy till she turns him into a barbarian. And I was reminded of it again, you know?
Why does the woman need to transform the man into a barbarian before she respects him?
Conditioned by her parents, probably. She doesn't think a poet is going to work all the time, but they dream of it. That was the whole point of psychoanalysis originally, was that what they deny to you face to face, they dream about at night. And they hated him for suggesting that. And Freud has a great line, you know, when Adler turns against him, his disciple,
yeah.
They say, why has he turned against you if you're the father of all his ideas? He said, he can't forgive me for all I've done for him. It's a real kind of Jewish joke.
Yeah.
Old Jewish joke, not new Jewish joke. The new guys, well, just go on a comedy club. I mean.
Did Ilsa secretly want to go off with Bogey?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of getting on the plane with Victor
Well,
Laszlo?
Woody Allen grew up taking Diane Keaton to see Bogey at the Baronet on 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
He doesn't make any pictures with guys like Bogey. Bogey's great. He shows doubt about the entire situation. You can talk to him about your doubt and you won't alienate him. Woody Allen doesn't make any pictures like that. You like Bogey because he was a little guy, and he's a little guy, but beyond that, he now has a picture out with Joaquin Phoenix, who played L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
Robin, you know, when Robin Williams was around, Robin said to me, how are you doing? Yeah. I said, terrible. I'm thinking about joining Scientology. And he said to me, don't, because when you're depressed, you'll tell them all that stuff and they'll use it against you later. He took everything literally, you know.
He did?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When you told him about joining Scientology, he took it literally?
Yeah, in fact, I have another line about Scientology. Like, Ken didn't like the guys congregating in large groups at the intermission. So he'd say, there's 10 guys over there, what are they talking about? And he'd go over there, he'd say, what are you guys talking about? And the guy said, we're talking about L. Ron Hubbard. He's a genius. And Stan said, that guy's not a genius, he comes to see the band. Which I thought was a great thing. He really, was pristine in his perception. And that's why it was a family. Stan really, very pure. In a way that I'm not seeing equaled. Thank God for YouTube. Bill Evans.
The women.
Anyway.
You are an extraordinarily romantic man. You speak about being somewhere listening to Glenn Miller music and reading the letters.
Yeah.
From afar.
It's a lot of pressure for women to live up to that.
Why?
Well, they like to think of themselves as free agents, flexible to adjust to whatever the current trauma is, practical. But the good ones know you've got them on the right track. In A Quiet Man, when he stands up and burns her dowry and takes on McLaughlin, she says, the dinner will be ready when you get home.
Saint indeed.
And now come into a man's house to clean it for him?
But that was just by way of being a good Christian act.
I know it was, Mary Kay Danaher. And it was nice of you.
Not at all.
She likes that. You become a savage. They would like to think they have an effect on you because of your high regard for them. Now, there's distortions to that, too. There's a Jewish girl saying, why can't you write a bad movie? We need the money this month, And that's what breaks your heart. When they stop being intriguing. And when they're not intriguing, they say things like, that's not reality. But they fall in love with you because you're in love with the lack of reality. I know that. It wasn't just that I was famous.
They fall in love with you because of your lack
of reality.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on that just a little?
You're out there, But then their mother's voice gets in the other ear, and they settle. And when Robin met Susan, I was around when he met her and courted her, and I went to the wedding. And I took my ex-wife there, hoping it would be catching. And it was really exciting. A great girl, and they really loved each other. And of course, a lot of subsequent tragedy. But he dreamed in a way the guys around him do not.
How so?
Billy Crystal doesn't dream that way. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't dream that way. They're pretend outlaws. They got a lot of social resentment for whatever personal reasons they have. But this guy, you could make him cry. I wrote a script for him. I got some money from him and helped me settle a divorce. And I wrote a script for him, and then I read it to him. I put him in a chair, and I read it to him, and he cried when I read it to him. He's that kind of guy. And before that, I should give you the full story. Please. I tried to do it with Steve McQueen. I said, let me bring it in tomorrow and read it to you. And he said, oh, no. He thought it was too persuasive that way.
Got it.
I remember, do you remember a movie called Nevada Smith?
Sure.
Well, McQueen, I got attached to that script and for a minute. And McQueen said to me, This older guy takes him under his wing and teaches him. It turned out to be Brian Keith. And he said, who could I get to be an elder that would make me into a Western and everything? So I came in the morning, and I said, Duke Wayne. And he said to me, you think I'd get in a ring with him? You're crazy. The only time he ever revealed doubt to me. And I think that doubt is well grounded, Duke Wayne. And he's become the metaphor for the liberals to scoff at the very dream you're talking about. But he was pretty convincing, wasn't he? Yeah. And you notice when Cecil B. DeMille says at the Directors Guild, we've got to take the communists and teach them the meaning of the word loyalty, and he proposes a blacklist, they all quake, except John Ford, a Catholic, a naval officer, and a fascist. Gets up and he says, I've been working with you 40 years, Cecil, but you're dead wrong in this one. He stood up. He was offended. That's a different America, I think.
That America, what we're going to refer to for purpose of our conversation is Mort's America. We know it ain't here anymore. The question is, will it ever be? Or has that train left the station forever?
Yeah, first of all, unless Netflix is going to make a movie about it, or Amazon. I mean, their idea of a buccaneer is Bezos or Charlie Rose. They want a kind of a bloodless guy. Do you remember Ivan Boesky?
Yeah, sure.
He was walking down 7th Avenue once, and it was a very full moon. And his wife said, Ivan, look at the moon. He said, what? Yeah, the moon. You can't buy it, you can't sell it. What good is it? Those guys are prevailing. I'm not going to say they won. I don't want to assert that. But they've made people fearful. And the audience at first wants to say to me, you can't say that. Then they find out you can say it. And of course, what they want you to do simplistically is say it about Trump, but don't say it about Hillary Clinton. Don't say that anybody they favor is a moron and shouldn't be on the air. If you can, say it about the enemy, but anybody who's on the air is the enemy. Look who's on. I'll tell you a great secret. Only you will be trusted with this. When I wasn't working in Los Angeles, I called Leno. I said, I'll write the political quips for you, and he turned me down. How's that? How about that for a low point of self-esteem? But you know how corrupt it all is. He probably couldn't enter this conversation and tell you a reason to save this country. I guess he likes it just fine. But that's not Pat Weaver's NBC. It's not Fred Allen's NBC.
In answer to my question.
Yeah.
Can America be saved?
Oh, yeah. But in order to do it, you must state the problem correctly and start working your way backwards. If you're a doctor and a guy comes in and says, I'm poor, I'm not having a good time at all. So get out there and hustle some money. That's not it. You got to tell him to go back and retrieve his soul. That's what it's about. Or I guess if you were a mean doctor said to me once, I said, I'm getting married. And he said to me, do you have any plans after you've been in love? And I thought the guy was an obstructionist, you know?
How do we go backwards with America? And
well,
become in touch?
The actual mechanics of it are that the secret police got into the government, the hackers and all those guys, and control appealed to them. And nobody said anything. I mean, where are the liberals? All the good ones. We know them all, you and I. We know them all. Why didn't they? Well, they didn't say anything when Kennedy got killed. They didn't say anything after Iraq. They didn't say anything. They just said, it's healthier not to say anything. Even with this baloney about Bruce Jenner and all. Notice that nobody cares about Bradley Manning? So I sneak it into the show. What do I say? I say, once the hormones take effect, the Army will cut his pay. The hope a joke will do it. Well, a joke won't do it. I mean, the whole idea, you got to be their kind of fugitive. Did you see Citizen 4, Elliot?
No, I did not.
Well, that's the movie about Snowden. And I suspect the moment we'll get to you is not the terror of living in Hong Kong or going to the airport in Moscow, but in the end, the producer pulls back and he's in the kitchen. And when you pull back far enough, the girl has come from Hawaii and she's helping him make dinner. That got to me. Maybe they didn't intend that, but it's pretty damn good. And interestingly enough, I saw it in the city, and nobody in San Francisco applauded or anything when it was over. That crowd used to be, they're the ones that built me, you know, the hungry eye. They're very quiet. They've become complicit.
Why have they become complicit?
Because they think that if they rock the boat, their future will fall out. They won't make any money. And in other words, when Assange says, as you said the other day, that Eric Schmidt at Google is one of the secretaries of state, nobody denied it. Nobody said, how do you know? What the hell do you know living on that air mattress in the Ecuadorian embassy? But he said it with conviction, and it sure convinced me. But they're all down there. They're all down there now, you know? And in a town where they can't have any servants because the Latino people who live there and serve them can't get a rental in San Jose. And when they get on the nonstop 787 from San Jose to Tokyo, the batteries start burning. So there's something wrong with the dream. There's something wrong with it. I suspect probably Steve Jobs could have said it. You know, we're not going to have the benefit of his wisdom. But if you went to Reed College, he knew.
You just said there was something wrong with the dream. I always thought, correct me if I'm wrong, that the problem was with the dreamers. That the dream is everlasting, safe, and real. Am I wrong?
Well, you got in there, mixed it up pretty good. You know, I saw you on and off, but you were among real merchant princes. And obviously you survived. I charmed them for a while, but then you remember when they became so elusive. That night you came over to the McCabe's, came over to see me. Even my wife wouldn't come over there. I don't know. They redressed the dream, you know, with, you're very eloquent with that Roy Tuckman interview when you talk about how the music accelerates and then becomes personal. I remember one of the kids at Beverly Glen said to me, I got an iPod and I've got my 1,000 favorite songs on there. But I don't have 1,000 favorite songs.
Name 5. Name 5 of your favorite songs, off the top of your head.
You know, some of the guys had a hold of it. You remember Cy Coleman?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know him because he wrote for Broadway and all. They don't know him generally. But the other day, startlingly enough, I was walking around and I started to sing a song I haven't heard since '54. I'm gonna laugh you right out of my life. Make it a beautiful life. No one will know that you broke my heart. And Keith Jarrett plays it, Mel Torme. There's some stuff, some people don't change. Herb Alpert never changed. He's right there for anybody that's breathing hard. He never was a cynic, and I encountered him first as an alternate trumpet player in the intermission band at the Crescendo in Hollywood, you know. And some people never change. I made a movie with Jerry Lewis last year. He never changed, for the better or for the, you know.
Didn't he give you your first security system?
Okay.
I still have this vision in my mind of being at your house in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And you showing me this closed circuit TV thing that you put at the door and you can see the person on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And didn't you tell me that Jerry Lewis had given that to you as a present?
Actually, he had a lot of cameras, you know that?
No, I didn't. I've never.
Yeah, he collected cameras. Oh. When he was working at Paramount with Sony and all. But I had put it there so I could see who was at the door.
Yes.
That was a big deal in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And then the joke occurred to me that if it was someone you didn't want to see, you lit them badly. You know, a real Hollywood horror story. But I suppose when I got away from that kind of joke and I started telling them fascism is here, they really ran for the life rafts. They didn't know what to do, you know. This guy doesn't think he's a comedian anymore. And I remember when I met Sheena, she felt sorry for me because, you know, I felt deserted. I was deserted. And I was deserted, if you want to have a laugh, defending their hero. Kennedy wasn't my hero, he was their hero. My hero was Adlai Stevenson. And, you know, when I was at the convention in '60, Elliot, I went down to give Kennedy some jokes at the Biltmore. And Gene McCarthy stopped me and he said, tell him that if there was any justice in this country, I would be the nominee because I'm twice as intellectual as Adlai Stevenson, I'm twice as liberal as Hubert Humphrey, and I'm twice as Catholic as he is. And I went in and I told him that. And Kennedy said to me, he's right. He never smiled. He took it literally, but he wasn't intellectual, even though he didn't want to admit it, you know. And by today's standards, he was like Einstein. But it's not a thing that I got moved about his plight. They didn't get moved, and they elected him. I thought that was kind of unjust. What were you going to say?
You told me something about Adlai Stevenson.
Yeah.
Many years ago. Tell me if this is correct. You said Adlai Stevenson was asked by a reporter, what is the greatest problem facing America? And Stevenson said, there's nobody to talk to.
Oh, yeah.
Remember telling me that?
Yeah. And he also said to me, you know, he was a Unitarian.
I do know that.
He said the bigots tried to drive him out of the neighborhood by burning a question mark on his lawn. But you know who lived across the street from him, was 8 years old? Robin Williams, Libertyville, Illinois. The old man worked for Lincoln Mercury.
Wow. They
lived catty-cornered at the corner. But his greatest line is when he quits over the Bay of Pigs. He quits, and he said to me, I'm through lying for them. And they said, well, what are you going to do? 60. He said, I'm going to become a gentleman farmer. And when I came out of the house, a truck pulled up with 60 black-faced Suffolk sheep from Winston Churchill. This will get you started. And I said to Stevenson, how would you sum this up? And he said, I found that having a sheepskin is a handicap in American political life. Boy, I mean,
wow.
Chilling guy to be around. He's great.
Wow.
Very, you know, fatherly, and naturally they had to get rid of him. And so a lot of weird things happened.
His quote, I ask you today.
Yeah.
Is there anybody left to talk to?
Out there?
Yeah. Who do you talk to? Who talks to you?
You mean political talent or talent?
What Stevenson meant in his quote when he said that the greatest problem...
Well, he was really an idealist. No, I don't think so. I mean, who, Elon Musk? Who? Jerry Brown? The bullet train from Modesto to downtown LA? Who would, I mean, do you notice the vacuity of it all? What's her name? Jennifer Warren?
Yes.
That senator?
Yeah.
Nader, honest, but no, there's nobody in the dreaming business. You know, when I was in Chicago, I did a dinner with Stevenson, and I'd run into Newhart, and he had no work.
Bob Newhart.
Yes, and Irv Cubson had said to me, "Can you put him on a show?" So I said, "Sure." And I put him, it was a dinner for Mrs. Roosevelt. And Stevenson introduced her by saying she would rather light one candle than curse the darkness. Yeah. And the Kennedys were very threatened by him. And ironically, if you were going to do it as a movie, he turned out to be a better friend of Jack Kennedy than his brother in the sense of his vision of the world. And as it happened, as it turned, I was trying to tell his brother they were going to shoot him if he got the delegates. But he had made a choice that I was a comedian, you know, and how could he take me seriously? I met him at David Brinkley's house.
I want to be specific.
Yeah.
There was a dinner at David Brinkley's house.
Yes.
You were there with Bobby Kennedy.
Yes.
You said to Bobby Kennedy that his brother, JFK, the president, was murdered. What did Bobby Kennedy say to you?
Well, all he kept doing was tearing his dinner napkins into pieces.
What was he saying?
And then I had to work at a club called the Cellar Door. I had to leave for the show. And he turned to China and he said to her, "Why does he say that he worked with these people and know who killed my brother?" And she said, "Well, he was here for an hour. Why didn't you ask him yourself?" She could be blunt, you know. And then later he invited me to his office. I went up there and he asked me what the college kids were saying about Johnson because he wanted to run against him. But he wanted to make sure it was a sure thing. And if I brought up the fact that it's dangerous to be a Kennedy, he'd throw me out of the office. And has. He is very perfunctory, but believe it or not, as grandiose as this will sound to the audience, we probably could have saved his life. And on this very stage, Brokaw did the NBC show about Jack.
Tom Brokaw.
And quoted Vincent Bugliosi and told me I was crazy and loaded it with people like Oswald's landlady, all CIA people. And I wrote to Brokaw subsequently because he kissed me goodbye.
Tom Brokaw.
Yeah, he kissed me goodbye. And I said, just like the most faithful follower of Jesus, it ended with an embrace. Which I got from McCarthy. It's a stolen quote, but yeah, Brokaw. And he decided to go for the money. He's not a real newsman. Not a real newsman in the sense that John Chancellor was. We gave him the story of the century about Jack Kennedy, but he's with the guys that say, we've got it covered. And I don't say this to make this show political. I think it has to do with the erosion of character, that they've got enough money to get him in Montana and get him to turn his back on the facts. What are the facts? Well, John Hart, who worked with him, goes to China when China opens, and he goes to a guy in a vineyard, and the apparatchiks from the Communist Party are standing there translating, and Hart said, "Did your father own this vineyard?" "Yes." before the Great Leap Forward. And now you're just a worker here. Yes, I'm a worker. You're happy with that? I'm happy. Do you feel happy? And the guy starts to cry. And Hart says, what's the matter? And the guy says, it's the first time in 75 years anybody has asked me how I feel. And then he said, John Hart, NBC News, Nanking.
Wow.
The real reporter.
Yeah.
And even he wasn't convinced of what I was doing until I got farther into it. So there's a great yoke around everybody. And I guess it's called economic security or something. There isn't any, though.
Is that all it takes? The promise that there's a buck at the end of the highway, keep your mouth shut, follow orders, and stop dreaming. Is that all it takes to take men of character and turn them into this?
Yeah.
Really?
There are men of character. The list is shorter as it became more punitive to have character. Now, rather than have a political discussion with you, I'm not going to say they're going to alter your character, but the thought of being excluded and being alone at night is pretty terrifying. Because in my movie, there was going to be a girl there who said, no, you're right, Mr. Smith, you keep marching that way. Well, they're not. We write them. I write Donna Reed, you know. But you couldn't sell that to anybody running a studio now. I mean, I feel sorry for them that they can't muster that anymore. Because Hollywood orchestrated my life. They don't anymore. They have a very dark view of this country. And the country will always live up to it. Yeah, we always come through. Oh, man.